Discussions in this show are for entertainment and educational purposes only and should not be construed as specific recommendations or investment advice. Always consult with your investment professional before making important investment decisions. Securities offered through registered representatives of Cambridge Investment Research, Inc., a broker-dealer and member of FINRA and SIPC. Advisory services through Cambridge Investment Research Advisors, Inc., a registered investment advisor. Cambridge and neither SmartPro Financial nor Bridgeway Wealth are affiliated.
Financial planning, simplified.
Yeah.
Here's all it is. I'll tell you why I made what I made last year and why it's going to keep growing. Financial planning is have margin in your life, buy things that go up in value. That's it.
That's it.
That's it.
All appreciating assets.
All appreciating assets. Now, there's two that historically have always returned.
Yeah.
Businesses, real estate.
Yep.
That's it.
Absolutely.
Now, everything else around that, like, okay, which businesses do I buy? Do I buy them publicly or privately? Like privately, Swamp Rabbit, Bridgeway Wealth, DBA, SmartPro Financial, right?
Yep.
Publicly, stocks.
Yep.
Mutual funds, ETFs that contain stocks,
Yep.
that kind of stuff. Real estate, personal house, commercial property, residential property. That's the public side, right? That's where the complexity comes in. But the simplicity is margin in your life to buy and own appreciating assets. That's where most people screw up, right?
Yeah.
It's like their cash flow statements over here.
Yeah.
Income minus expenses equals your margin.
Yep.
I pray to God it's positive
Yeah.
or at least zero,
Yeah.
right? Like at least you're netting zero.
Yeah.
But you got to take that margin and move it on your balance sheet to either buy assets that go up in value or pay down liabilities,
100%.
right? And if we don't do that, we can't have the end goal of using our assets to fund our income down the road.
To create wealth.
Exactly.
There you go.
That's it, man.
Yeah.
Now, like the tax strategy, estate strategy, insurance, the legal, all that is complex.
So from like a 30,000 point view, financial advisement is very simplified, right? Just like you described.
Should be.
But once you dive into the nitty gritty, that's where it gets complex, and that's where you need an expert to come
Correct.
in and help navigate.
Yeah, and I would say the biggest variable there is honestly people.
Yeah.
80-20,
Yeah.
right? That is 100% right there, like 20% head knowledge.
Yeah.
If I can just maintain margin, which goes back to discipline,
Yep.
goes back to behavior. If I don't have margin, I either need to increase income or decrease expenses.
Yep.
It's really that simple.
Yeah.
But people don't have the discipline, the behavior, the forethought, the sight, like perspective, whatever. And that's why we come alongside to say, hey, maybe we just make this one change.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a temporary change.
Yeah.
But let's make that temporary change. If you really hate the positive result, we'll go back.
Yeah, you can go back to...
You always go back in debt if you want to.
Yeah.
Guarantee everyone will give you a loan today.
Absolutely.
But like if we can just do those simple things, then we can be successful over here.
Absolutely.
And that's why I always tell people, like, this took me 7 years to come up with, by the way. But like I tell people that right now in like every prospect meeting. And to me, I usually followed up by saying something like this. If you're talking with an advisor and they can't break it down that simple, they really don't understand the process.
Yeah.
And you should probably walk away because there's over 300 licensed advisors in this country.
Yeah.
Assume it's a bell curve. You've got 2.5% are really, really good. 2.5% are really, really bad.
Yeah.
Everyone else is marginal.
Yeah.
I want the 2.5% really, really good.
100%.
Right. Like, and that's like the simplicity thing. Going back to Hormozy is he had a post like a month ago on his Instagram that said the levels of wealth is no meetings, all the meetings, no meetings.
100%.
Right. That's like, it's really simple. I got to get clients.
Yeah.
Right. I got to get customers. I have way too much to manage. I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm trying to get out of the treadmill stage of business and life. And then it's, okay, everything's dialed in. To me, it's like really simple, complex, really simple.
Yeah.
And it's, I don't know, I love the fact we're talking about this.
Yeah.
It's just, this is how it goes.
No,
right?
absolutely.
But this is how my brain works all day.
Mine too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So with that, we can actually talk about podcast.
Let's do it.
And do an intro here.
Yeah.
Maybe that's our B-roll, right?
There we go.
So,
yeah.
Awesome. We'll jump in. That's where I mess up. Right there.
What?
my voice cracking.
Oh.
So
Tell them you're going through puberty.
I mean, that's what I've been telling
Finally
people
hit
all
it.
week.
Yeah.
I got the voice of a 12-year-old today. So, all right. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Working Wealth Podcast. I'm Patrick, and I am so excited to have for you guys today an incredible guest, in my mind, a staple of our community here in the upstate of South Carolina, Mr. Chris Sweet with Swamp Rabbit Moving. Golly. Pollen is getting us everywhere, right?
It is.
Like that is the thing that is dragging us down this week. So, but I'm super excited to have Chris on the show with us today to talk about really some of your business, kind of close out our home ownership, moving series we've been doing where we had, general talks about buying houses, we talked about insurance, talked about mortgages, actually buying the house with Adam Taylor. And then now talking about, well, how do you move into it successfully, right? Yeah. So we're going to talk some about that. Also want to talk really about your experience and your exposure in the business realm and what's helped you become so successful over the years. Looking from the outside in, I would say you're extremely successful, right? Now, success is defined by everyone differently. So I want to talk about what that means to you as we go here. But I really want to get into that and share with people, what does it take to actually win, and what are the things that actually matter in life? Because winning is not just money.
Yeah.
It's everything else, right? So just to kind of launch us off, though, why don't you take a couple minutes and just introduce yourself to everyone, anybody that doesn't know you. I'd be very surprised if they don't. But let's take a minute and just tell us about yourself.
Yeah. So, I'm Chris, owner of Swamp Rabbit Moving. We started, 4 years ago. I got a beautiful wife, 3 beautiful girls. Really growing up with not much at all. We moved around a ton, always getting evicted, and it took a while to get my bearings together, but kind of did, and rolled with the punches and grew something really special, something beyond my wildest dreams. Still got a long ways to go, but super excited for that journey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's definitely been a journey over the past couple of years, right?
It has.
And I want to get more into that here in a second. And maybe just on that note, that's a good kind of recap of, why we're here on the Working Wealth Podcast and what the purpose of this show is. This is obviously education for our clients, for the general, population out there, trying to teach people things, be it a resource, get the right people in front of them to learn about things that actually matter in the world. But going back to our name, the Working Wealth Podcast, it's really got 2 underlying things, right? Is you have to work at your wealth. And it takes work over time.
Yeah.
And that might sound really stupid, like I'm saying the same thing back and forth, but those are 2 distinct things. You have to actually put intentionality and proactivity into actually generating some kind of wealth, and you have to maintain that to be able to maintain it over time. You can't just get to a point and then say sayonara. It's like in business, everybody says the moment you stop growing is when you start dying, right?
Exactly.
Same kind of thing with our wealth process.
Yeah.
So I'm, again, really excited to have you here. Really appreciate your time. I know it's super valuable. And let's take that and jump into really some of your story more around the business itself and actually getting it started.
Yeah.
I know a little bit of the background, but tell us what led you to actually start a moving company.
So growing up, my grandpa always owned his own truck lot. And so he was always my role model. He was like the one stable person in my family. He was always my role model. I just wanted to be like my grandpa. I wanted to be an entrepreneur. And I didn't know what it was going to be in. At first, I thought it was going to be in welding, maybe start a fab shop or whatever. But through some life challenges or whatever, I stopped welding. I met a buddy that was working at a moving company here locally in Greenville. And he was like, hey, man, you should come try it out. It's an awesome job. So I started as a mover. I really loved it. I got to be in nice houses every day that I would never get to be in, normally. Mm-hmm. And I would get to talk to these people that own these houses, like, what do you do? Like, how do you get this? And it's just everyday people that, solve problems to a higher level than your average person, right? And I got into that, worked there for 4 years, and then I realized, I can do this on my own. So by that point, I had saved up 20 grand. My mother-in-law at the time gave me 2 grand, and then my mom gave me 2 grand. So I had $24,000. My grandpa found me a truck. It was $16,000. I had just enough to buy the truck, get it wrapped, and get insurance and get it on the road. And that was October of 2020. Bought that truck, and then our first year it was the time around COVID, so interest rates were low, so demand was super high. It was just it was a great time, unfortunate time for the world as a whole, but a great time for a moving business. By the end of year 1, we had 8 trucks, and we were just cranking at that point. Every time I had enough money to buy another truck and still make payroll, That's what I did. I mean, we lived in an apartment. I was probably making less as an owner than I was working at Tiger Moving, but overall, I was making a lot of money, if that makes sense. I was just reinvesting it back into the business, paying cash for trucks every single time I could, and just building up that operational standpoint to where we could service as much moves as possible and bring in as much revenue as possible.
Yeah. So it sounds like basically every dollar you had available, aside from food, insurance, and gas for yourself, right? Those kind of things.
Maybe diapers,
maybe diapers for the kids, right?
Yeah.
We got a washcloth over here. We'll take care of it, right? You do what you got to do, right?
Yeah,
and that's the beauty of that. And it sounds to me like what you did was you actually just compounded and fueled the J curve of growth.
100%.
Right? Like, I think not a lot of people are familiar with that concept, but like that J curve is, you're going to have a little bit of a dip at the beginning, right?
Yep.
Assuming, most people have a little dip as they start that process to success. And then over time, as they keep reinvesting. Same thing with your personal business as well as your retirement accounts, other kind of stuff, is you're not going to see growth at the beginning. Maybe you see some decline. You see some loss at first. But if you keep with the process and you have a good product, good service, you just launch that sucker up.
Yeah.
Right. And it just starts to hockey stick all the way up through the roof. Right.
Absolutely.
So you had 8 trucks.
Yeah.
End of year 1.
Yeah.
What was that like going from? I'm going to jump around here on some of the questions I have for you, but like, what was it like going from like a single guy, like one man shop?
Yeah.
You got a truck, you're, I guess it was diesel trucks, right?
Yeah.
Like, so you're trying to get diesel, make sure you got enough to get from point A to point B, help your clients win, that kind of stuff. What is that like to go from there to in 1 year having 8 different trucks, which I'm assuming means you have at least, 8 or 10 different employees you're managing.
Yeah.
What are some of the challenges you saw in that process? Like the things that stand out to you that were most impactful?
I could go on about challenges all day because
we'll do a whole podcast series on that.
Well, when I first started, like I was just a mover at the other company. Like I had
Okay.
no basic knowledge about actually physically running a business, keeping up with a P&L, doing marketing, or doing sales for customers. Like this was all stuff that you just kind of had to learn, right? And a lot of those lessons cost money, and that's okay. That's where I grew the most. But it was very chaotic. But what I was really able to be really good at, that really I think helped success, was I was able to get around the right people to kind of mentor and guide me to where I need to be that leader, to be able to manage those people, be able to hire other leaders that could jump in and be that median person between me and help me manage those people and figure out what's my strength, what's my weakness. Okay, if I'm weak here, let's hire somebody really good in this area, and then that way we can rocket fuel and keep growing. But some of the biggest challenges were basically just, to be honest, a lot of it was financials. Like, how do we track expenses? How do we make sure that we're profitable in every single job? Are we cost analysis in every single job? Are some jobs more profitable or some not? Like, what's making us the most money, and how do we focus on those? And we've even done that here recently, as recent as January. We thought that, these large $40,000, $50,000 moves we were doing to Texas were, they're $40,000, $50,000.
It's a big ticket, right?
They got to be making tons of money, right?
Yeah.
Versus this $2,000, $3,000 local move. Well, we were absolutely wrong. Some of those jobs, like even like the $40,000, $50,000 jobs, we were pretty much paying customers to move there.
Oh,
wow. I mean? But some of those, if not caught fast, and especially if they're not fueled by other profitable avenues, could really cost you a lot, and honestly put you in a dangerous position where, you might have to shut down.
Yeah, so it's interesting how you could have like little successes over here, that hide the failures over here,
and that's exactly
you think
what
you're
it
still
was.
Doing right.
Yeah, that's exactly, because we were still profitable as a company. Like we were driving good margin. We just weren't driving as much as we possibly could, and that's the name of the game, right? Like, especially in a profit business, like money's not everything, right? But in a business, money kind of is everything. That's how you scale.
Yeah.
Like, that's how you have money to scale. That's how you have money to bear seasonality businesses. Surprise bills. We all know. We all own businesses. We all know they come, right? Like you get an audit from workers' comp. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh, $50,000. What do you mean? I just paid it.
God forbid your payroll provider forgot to pay your payroll taxes for 6 months. Like
we
that
had
kind of
that.
stuff.
We
Really?
had that. So we were using a
Oh
payroll provider
gosh.
processor, and we were paying the SC due tax to
Yeah.
them. They were not paying it to the state.
Oh,
And
such a small small miss was such a big impact.
yeah, so
Like,
we
come on.
essentially we had to double pay our SC due tax for all of 2021, which was
Oh.
absolutely insane, especially at that point in time in our business. Because I mean, we were further than I ever thought we would be, but we
Yeah.
were still in a vulnerable position. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. Because I mean, you're starting to get some traction, right? You're feeling the flywheel's going and it's moving, and then all of a sudden something just grabs onto that wheel
Yeah.
and stops it.
Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
like, the anxiety kicks in, but then, you just use that for motivation to get out there and continue to push.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
So you were into year one, 8 trucks, a bunch of people,
Mhm.
obviously some challenge to fight there. Sounds like everything you had done up to that point was just cash flowing, saving up cash, use
Yeah.
that to reinvest, those kind of things. Has your philosophy or your business operation on how you've grown and expanded over the years changed in that regard?
It has, and a little bit. You want to make sure that you have enough data to prove consistent cash flow and be able to cash forecast. 2 years ago, we took out an SBA loan, and so I'm not completely against using debt to scale.
Mhm.
You just got to make sure that it's smart debt, that you can service it, that
Right.
it's gonna pay more than what you're paying on it. Um, I still like the idea of cash flowing when you can,
Mhm.
personally out of pocket. But there are some things like if we go to acquire a moving company,
Mhm.
we're probably going to have to.
You're not going to pay cash
Yeah, we're not.
$5 million to buy a business.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's just
right.
making sure that you're being smart when you go to leverage yourself because,
Mhm.
again, you could become upside down. If you over leverage yourself in debt.
Right. Yeah, I'm actually glad you brought that up because a lot of our background with our company, Smart Pro Financial, is we're very closely tied with the Ramsey organization,
Yeah.
which is very much against debt,
Yeah.
right? And that's been a thing that even has evolved for me over the years. Is like on the personal side, 100%. Like, do not finance your life.
Yeah.
That is one of the dumbest things you can do. Putting food delivery on a Klarna payment or an Afterpay. Like,
Yeah.
I saw that the other day. You can pay for your food delivery in 4 easy payments, interest free. I'm like, how stupid are we getting, right?
Oh.
But that's like the personal side. But on
Yeah.
the business side, if you're making a strategic move to be able to cover your cash flow and you can service that debt, same as buying rentals.
Yeah.
Or, buying, like we were trying to buy a commercial property a month ago and the guy didn't want a deal, whatever, right? But like that's okay because the numbers weren't going to work out unless he wanted a deal. So we're not pushing that issue.
Absolutely.
But that's really important to know, especially for excuse me. That's really important to know, especially just for those that are business owners listening is, you can find that middle ground.
Yeah.
And you can get the right people around you. I want to come back to that and actually get the wisdom and get the coaching and the mentorship to make some good strategic moves.
Yeah.
But it's always about strategy, right?
Exactly.
You can't just jump in willy-nilly and say, I'll figure it out,
Yeah.
right? Maybe at the beginning.
Let's go get $1 million loan. I don't know if I can pay it, but we're going
Right.
to try.
Yeah, I just gotta go like give blood enough times,
Yeah.
right? Like in the month to pay that bill, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So you mentioned though, like having the right people around you, and I'm curious for you specifically, where do you find those people?
Yeah, I think so. The first person that I got around me that was super important was I found a guy in a moving company owner forum that was starting his own consulting business in the moving industry. He had worked for College Hunks at their original location before they started franchising.
Oh wow, okay.
So he had all the
Yeah.
back end office knowledge that I didn't have. So I had found him. I connected with him. Honestly, I think I was his first client. That's how I found that guy, and he was definitely instrumental into my success early on. And then after that, I just wanted to get some local mentorship. So, I jump into a local, like the young professionals of Greenville or whatever.
Yeah.
Jump in there and asking people, hey, is there anything going on, any networking, or go to a networking event. Hey, do you know any coaches or anybody be willing to mentor me? Just put myself in vulnerable situations and being okay with being told no until I was told yes for somebody to come in and help me out.
Yeah, I feel like that is so many nuggets there. The one that stands out to me the most, though, is that last line you just said is right. Being willing to be told no
Yeah,
so many times until you get that yes, and that's the story of business,
100%.
right? Is if you're not willing to get kicked in the teeth for 2 years straight, you're probably not going to make it.
Yeah, and I would say I would be super offended when people tell me no. But now that I'm where I'm at, I realize like people are busy, like so you're going to be told no, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But somebody along that line is going to tell you yes and be willing to jump in and help you out where they can.
Yeah, and you really want that person who's actually has the capacity to serve you,
100%.
right? Or not serve you, but like to work with you, to
Yeah.
mentor you, coach you, those kind of things.
Absolutely. And you want to make sure you don't take advantage of them either. You want
Right.
to make sure you're not, overstepping, overusing their time. You want to make sure
Yeah.
that you're very mindful and that you're trying to bring some sort of value as well.
Right. No, I love that. I love that so much. So thinking about that, like as you're building the business and the enterprise, obviously a huge thing is culture and making sure you have like we're working on doing some like light EOS implementing in our business, some consulting work, trying to really get more processes and things in place so we can keep scaling and growing the way we want to go. And I know for you guys, you've scaled tremendously over the years. And the thing I see from the outside in is as a company, everybody wants to go with the rabbit,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because we see what you guys operate like from the outside,
Yeah.
right? You don't hide it. You're very honest. You're very transparent about, some of the challenges I've seen through Facebook posts and other things over the years. It's incredible to see that. And I'm just curious for you is like, how have you crafted such a good culture and maintained that culture as you hire more people, challenges come up, the business grows? What does that process look like for you?
It's changed over the years. Here recently, before I was more lighthearted, probably a little bit more passive than I needed to be. Here recently, we've changed our motto to lead with empathy, but also have an extreme accountability piece to it as well. So like, there's a standard, and if you don't meet this standard, we're either going to decide, can we train you to get to the standard, or we're just going to have to go separate ways, right? Because we've all heard that saying that, one person that's cancer could create havoc across the whole company, right? So we have to make sure that we're closely monitored and always have a finger on the pulse to our company. And what's really been a true testament to our culture is that typically when we hire like for a upper level management position, we have to go through 50 people before we find somebody that we like, And here recently, we just went and looking for a sales manager, and like the first 5 people, I mean, it was just like, wow, like we didn't have to go through any duds to get like qualified candidates.
Really?
And my GM looked at me and was like, this is all based on our culture. This is how I know we have something special here, because people want to come work at Swamp Rabbit Moving. And that was a true, like a proud dad moment. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
This is cool.
That's awesome. So like you might probably still had like 50 applicants.
Oh,
but those first,
we had
first 5
hundreds.
were just
Yeah.
studs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it came down to like, it's never been hard to pick for those positions, because usually we just get one really good one and they just stand out way further than the other. And this time, I mean, we didn't interview past 5 people. We had 5 people. We were like, we feel like this is a great candidate pool. We're just going to select out of here. And it was still difficult, like selecting which one we were going to go with.
Yeah. And I feel like that's only going to get harder and harder.
Yeah.
Right. Like as you guys continue to grow and people see who you are, everybody wants to be there. Right.
They say that's the difference between big businesses and small businesses, is that small businesses, they hire one great employee and then they stop. But big businesses, what they do is they continue to hire A-level players that continue to grow and push their mission. And that's something that has stuck with me. I forgot who said it and where I heard it. It was on a podcast. Oh, that's something that's truly stuck with me. So I just want to continue to hire people way smarter than me. Like, I don't have to be – my ego is not that big. Like, I don't have to be the smartest guy at Swamp Rabbit Moving. I prefer not to be. Just continue to hire super smart people in their area that I need them, and let them take off and develop that role.
And how have you, I think it's important with that is right. Like again, I love that. Like your ego is not the thing driving everything. Because if that was the case, you'd have to be involved in every single thing that happens in the company. And that's not business ownership. That's self-employment, right?
Yeah,
that doesn't give you the freedom to go play golf, travel, be on vacation, those kind of things. That's honestly, like, admittedly, that's where I'm at. Is trying to hire those good people. We've got some really, really good studs right now, trying to expand that into the advisor space, those kind of things. But I'm curious, as you're trying to identify the right people, you have to know the right role they have to go into.
Exactly.
So what is it that you have seen over the years that has led to you being able to hone in on, okay, our business is at this stage. We need 3 different people. We got to hire one strategic role first.
Yeah.
Like, how do you decide what that strategic role is for that hire?
Well, here recently, I really lean heavily on my GM to figure that out.
Okay.
Just to be quite frank. So he'll come up with, what he thinks, what he thinks that role will be in the next 5 years, right? Like, so 5 years down the line. That way, we're not hiring somebody and outgrowing them as soon as we hire them, right? We're gonna hire them. We're gonna hire above what we need right now, and we're gonna hope that once we meet them where they're at, that they've already evolved into being that next person we need for that 10-year goal, right? So he's looking at what's that position going to look like in 5 years? Who are they going to be managing? Where's the company going to be at? And he's writing out job responsibility and duties based upon that. And then, we'll have a meeting about it. We'll agree on it, and then he'll publish it. But also, what I'm really looking for is somebody that especially in a high level position, I'm looking for somebody that can come in and they don't need that much training, right? Like, I don't need to train you how to do your job that you're supposed to be better at me than, right? Obviously, we want to get you, like the person we hire for a sales manager, they have no moving experience. That's easy. You can teach a monkey moving.
Yeah.
So what our training process was is like we're gonna help him, we're gonna train him on moving, and then let him take off in everything else, right? Like he should be able to train himself. Essentially, is the way I look at it.
Yeah, and if he's not coming in on day one and asking, okay, so I know all these processes, just show me where the boxes are.
Yeah,
like I'm good. Show me the boxes. Give me my login for the computer. Leave me alone. If they're not doing that on day one, you probably made the wrong hire.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, as soon as we sent him the job offer letter, he was like, okay, cool. Well, he wasn't starting for 2 weeks. He was like, okay, cool. Can I get in the CRM before I start so I can figure it out? Or is there any YouTube videos about move? Like he's prepping himself without having to be asked. And that's how you know that you're getting good qualified candidates, right?
Yeah. I love that.
Because what you don't want to do is get somebody in there and you have to like spend a month, 2 months training them. And then you're like, okay, cool. Well, this is your role. Take off with it. Do whatever you want, right? But you've already trained it for 2 months on how you want it done.
Yeah. There's no ownership there.
Yeah.
Right. And if there's no ownership, there's no real accountability because it's still going to be based on what you're expecting rather than what they see that's needed for the vision of the company.
Exactly. And we want to support. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, we'll be there every step of the way. If they have a question, we're there to support and guide and all that stuff. But with the right candidate, they shouldn't need that much to take off.
So I think the key thing going back to that is you mentioned like even him, like the general manager hiring for these other roles, they're seeing, well, who's going to be the right fit 5 years from now?
Yeah.
And then once we get to 5 years from now, obviously there's the next 5 years of 10 years from today.
Yeah.
So you're talking kind of about the vision there. And I'm curious for you guys is what is that 5 to 10 year vision for Swamp Rabbit?
So the vision for Swamp Rabbit moving as a business is in 10 years to be at $100 million and then sell to private equity. And they all know that. My GM knows that. Everybody in leadership knows that. The sales manager that's coming in, we told him that's our goal. So, like, he knows, like, our end goal is to grow and sell. And I want to get really heavily involved into commercial development.
Gotcha.
Whether it's, residential subdivisions or warehouse space or, multi-tenant units, whatever the case may be. But I definitely know that's the area I want to land in.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So you already have that clear picture, like we'll call it a BHAG, right?
Yep.
Big, hairy, audacious goal. That's what 10 years looks like from now. But everybody in the organization, from you all the way down to the new guy that got hired yesterday to move boxes and pack boxes or move things around in the warehouse.
Yeah.
Everybody knows that mission. And if they're on that mission, they're the right fit.
Absolutely. And everybody knows that if they play a critical role in that they have a nice equity stake at the end of it as well.
Fantastic. So that goes back to like incentivization and keeping people on board in the right way. So have you guys already started and you don't have to share anything you don't need to share, aren't ready to share at this time. I'm just curious, have you already kind of started mapping out what that looks like?
Yep. So my GM, he'll be the first one to get, as long as everything goes to plan, right? He'll be the first one with equity stake in the company after we get 2 more locations.
Perfect.
The sales manager coming in, he'll have a good piece as long as he continues to grow and helps us build out sales processes that we can expand and scale and make these other locations successful. He'll have a great equity play as well. And then also any long tenured employees, because we don't keep employees if they're bad employees, right? Like, tenure's not nothing special to me, but if they have tenure, that means that they've met that standard for a long period of time. They'll have a nice little piece of the company once we sell. And they all know that private equity, when they come in to buy, that they're going to have to remain in place for a while. Like, it's not like they come in and buy, you get a piece of the pie, and now you're out doing all, like, even me, I'll probably have to stay in for a little while,
Yeah.
like that's just part of the deal. And they all know that, and they're all willing, so they say as right now. As long as those are all executed, I'll make sure that I want to make sure everybody wins. That helps me win.
Mm-hmm. I feel like there could be another conversation we have just around what that transition looks like.
Yeah.
So we don't have to do that today for the sake of time, but I think we should have that conversation because it's very interesting. Like when PE comes in, you usually see some culture shift
100%.
because you have a profit focused mindset coming in. Like they're looking at their margin, how they're going to make profit.
Who they're going to cut.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's a really good one. And I think though for you guys, like I have seen other companies, small businesses. I met someone randomly. We were in the mountains over Valentine's Day. We met someone from Augusta, Georgia, that is in a home furnishing store. It's been around for 40 years. They're PE owned, but the PE managers came in and said, "Oh, we're not going to touch anything. Like y'all are doing it right. So we're going to shut up, leave you alone, keep doing your thing. 7 years from now, we'll sell." Like that kind of thing. So there's a lot of conversation there. I'm curious though, as you've been scaling your business and thinking about where you're going, you're setting this vision down the road, a lot of times business owners get lost in the business. And especially those first few years, it's kind of hard. Like you're feeling your way, you're tripping over yourself all the time. All the challenges, the things you never expect, they come up. Like for us in our business, I quit my full-time engineering job and then the world shut down 6 weeks later.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, the market's had the worst crash in 90 years in a matter of 3 weeks, right? That was 5 years ago this month. And then 2 years later, the market crashes again, right? And then beginning of this year, it's been a little bit of bobbles. I'm not worried about it. It's normal volatility. But it's like there's always those things you never expect or you never think will actually happen. So I'm curious for you guys, how do you balance? Understanding balance is a really weird word when we talk about this, but how do you balance keeping the business going, setting the vision, leading from the front with also all the things that the business is supposed to support?
Yeah.
Like your faith, your family,
Yeah.
your relationships, your health. Like most business owners I find are the least healthy. They are the ones that get divorced early. Their kids hate them. They might have a lot of money in the end, but also in the end, they are alone, sick, dejected, miserable, all that kind of stuff. So how do you keep yourself grounded to stay balanced on those things?
That's a great question. I think we were kind of talking about a little bit before is number one, there's seasons in life, right? Like you're never truly going to have balance 100% 50-50, right? Sometimes, family's going to have to sacrifice. Sometimes health may have to sacrifice. But what you have to keep in mind is that you have to continue, if you want to keep scaling successfully, you have to keep evolving into the person you need to be to lead that team that's going to get you to where you're supposed to be. Was a lot of tangents, but
you're good. Roll with it.
So like the way I look at it is, I'll get into a season where I'll feel funky. Like, beginning of this year, I felt a little funky, right? Like the business was running the day to day without me. I'm the kind of person, I kind of enjoy fires. Like that's what I'm really good at. I'm good at putting out fires really fast. So it's kind of like I felt like Ricky Bobby. Like, what do I do with my hands? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like I'm not needed. Like it felt like my kid turned 18 and they just moved out of the house and now they don't need me anymore. So that led me into a journey spiritually, a journey physically and mentally, what do I need to be and who do I need to be to get to where I want to go? So I started evolving into, what does Chris look like at $10 million as a $10 million company leader? We're not there yet. We're close, but we're not there yet. But what do I need to be there? And that's how I shift my balance and focus. Like I need to be able to make long-term strategies, and then I need to be able to have the ability to pass it off and let my team execute it, not me being the one jumping in to execute it. Like I set the vision, pass it off, and let them figure it out, whether they make mistakes or not. And that's the hard part is when they start making mistakes, it's like not jumping in and trying to correct it right away. And I still catch myself doing it sometimes. And my GM does too. He's like, Chris, you need to think about what you're doing. And then I'll quickly retract and let them keep going. Like you're never going to be perfect, right? It's just coming to more of a realization of being able to find your mistakes and then fix them really quick and step back again. Hopefully that kind of answered your question.
Yeah, no, it's really, really good. And I'm thinking, so you mentioned it kind of at the beginning of that is you're never really in balance.
Yeah.
It's always a push-pull,
Yeah.
right? If you're given on your health, maybe that's to focus on your family,
Yeah.
which
You should always focus on your health, though. I mean,
you should. Yeah.
yeah.
I
But
was,
at what level, right? Like right now, I'm like
Yeah.
at a super, like I'm at a level where I'm really trying to like physically get to the best shape of my life, you know? And there may be a point where I have to step back and instead of working out 6 days a week super hard, I have to work out 4 or 5 days a week super hard.
Right.
And that's okay. Like to that extent is what I mean.
Yeah, and even if you're doing that trade-off, right? Maybe
Yeah.
you're not going to the gym and working out or rucking or running, that kind of stuff, but you can still fuel yourself, right?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times that's where you find, well, what are the little levers I can pull? And I'm not the picture of, the perfect physique, right? Working on that kind of stuff. But as you're navigating different seasons of life, like having a kid, opening another location, maybe a family member dies and you have to get a little bit distracted by things, you can still make those good little decisions to pivot and stay on the long-term path.
Exactly.
And I see that on the financial journey for people all the time. We were talking about earlier as well is, a lot of times it's just having that outside perspective. You have the coach, the mentor, the people in your circle around you to say, hey, like this is a really big thing that's happening in your life. We're going to talk about it empathetically. Like it's real. It's a real thing that's going on. But that doesn't mean we have to throw away everything we've done.
Yeah.
Right. If, like on the financial side, sometimes it's, well, we didn't have enough money saved up and our car got totaled and our insurance company's trying to stiff us. I got to go get a car loan.
Yeah.
Okay, great. We'll like drop down on your retirement savings for now to pay that sucker off and let's go back on it gangbusters after the fact.
Yeah.
It's just a temporary thing, temporary change we make for the bigger goal down the road to not get distracted. So I love that because you're never going to be perfect.
Yeah.
Like the wheel's going to keep rolling and sometimes it's going to be lopsided. You never want it to be a square. That's not going to turn very easily.
No.
You don't want it to be like an oblong. Like that's not going to turn very well.
No.
But the more balanced you can be, the better you can actually proceed on this journey.
Absolutely. And being able to communicate that to the people around you too is number one, right? Like, when we're going into a seat, like when I started the Charleston branch, my wife knew that I was going to be gone a lot and that I was going to be, really trying to push it. And she was okay with that because we communicate. Like we just knew like it was just a temporary thing and, it'd be back to normal eventually, But being able to like communicate effectively to make sure that everybody that you love in your life knows where you're at is critical, right? And it'll save you a lot of pain and anxiety because when they do, it's like, oh, well, you haven't been, well, we talked about this and we knew like this was the plan and this is where we want to go and this is what it's going to take. So, this is where we're at.
Mm-hmm. And remind me, what's the status on the Charleston branch? I know
We wound up shutting the Charleston branch down.
You did? Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Great learning
Not trying
lesson.
to pick a scab.
No.
I didn't realize where that
No
landed,
scab at all. That was the best day of my life.
Okay. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, so I kind of, that early entrepreneur success, I thought I had the golden touch. And it was like, oh, man, it didn't matter what I did. I could make a moving company successful. Well, started a branch in Charleston. Revenue-wise, we were doing great. Operational-wise, we were just doing terrible. Like, I didn't put the proper management in place. I didn't have the proper procedures or systems and processes in place off the rip. And it wound up just being a ton of anxiety and just almost like made me lose my passion for running a business. It was bad. We were going out to a job, that was like a $500 job and, we had $25,000 worth of damage. And it was like,
whoa.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
They were, just not showing up with any materials or anything. And it was all my fault, right? Like I just didn't have the system. But that was okay. So I came to the realization that, we were either going to have to move to Charleston and get it right because I couldn't put anybody in the position to try to fit. It was too far gone to put anybody in that position and expect them to build it back up. So it made me come to the conclusion that we were just going to shut it down and that we were going to use it as a learning lesson. And then that way, when we open our next location, we know exactly what we're doing. Maybe not exactly what we're doing, but we're a lot far ahead of the bell curve on this time around. So shut it down, brought all those assets back to Swamp Rabbit in Greenville and utilized them like nothing ever changed, became more profitable as a company, and really started diving into building out proper procedures and processes and what it looks like starting a new location, whether it's acquiring a moving company that already has a built-in back-end office staff, because really when you're acquiring a company, the best asset they have is the people that are running it, right? So either going that route or starting like, how do we train somebody to get to be that manager we need, and how do we get them bought in enough to do what we need to make that location successful without us, right? Like, I can't be in the equation of a new location because I can't always be there.
Mm-hmm.
So what are we going to do on the next one to make sure it's successful? So it was just a kind of an expensive learning lesson, but it was one that needed to be had. You know, it was kind of a reality check too.
Yeah. No, that's so. I feel like it's kind of a personal check.
Yeah.
Right. It's not just the financial and the business one. It's like you mentioned you thought you had the golden touch, right?
Yeah.
King Midas over here,
Yeah.
right?
It's like,
but it's crap. Like,
yeah,
maybe I'm not as good as I thought I was.
100%.
So how has that led into shifts in the business? Obviously, you brought all the collateral up. You know, reinvested locally, getting processes and systems in place. I'm curious, just thinking about. I'm losing the actual question I wanted to ask you. As you've done that and you've started to reevaluate maybe your niche or where your core focus is, has that changed anything for you guys at all?
It's changed in the sense that it made me want to acquire. Like, instead of starting, like, I've really been looking to acquire and just roll all up and slowly rebrand them into Swamp Rabbit. But the thing that we're running in with that is that, you know, most moving companies rarely hit that $1 million mark. And if they're under that $1 million mark, it's typically owner operators. And I'm not trying, that's not what I'm after. And anything over that, you know, they're typically not wanting to sell, or they're wanting to sell at like a super unrealistic price.
Yeah.
So it shifted my mind to that, but it's also shifted my mind to also being more thoughtful and more letting the process take place without being too sporadic and too impulsive. So, like, when I decided Charleston, I was like, all right, we're starting in Charleston. And guess what? The next week, guess where we were at? We were in Charleston. Like, it was just like a week long.
Lease is already signed.
Yeah. I mean, I already had 2 trucks. I had them wrapped. Like, it was very sporadic. But now we're a lot more thoughtful. We're a lot more planned. And that way, you know, we're a lot more prepared, you know.
Mm-hmm. Is there any kind of like business process, operating system, things like that you guys are using to actually do your planning and your strategy?
So we kind of go off of Empire. It's very similar to EOS. But it's, you know, they have the rocks and all that stuff. Very similar. So we use that to track all our KPI metrics and stuff, like a red light, green light, yellow light. Like, so if something's in yellow 2 times in a row, then we're going to talk about it. If something's in red, we're going to talk about it. If something's in green, we're just going to let it be. But yeah, very similar to EOS.
Okay, gotcha. Yep. And that's been helpful for you guys to be able to identify those problems, make those strategic decisions.
Absolutely.
Right people, right seats, all that.
Well, it allows you to lead effectively when you're not in the day-to-day, it allows you to lead effectively and gives you the data you need to hold meeting. Like, if we were going to a meeting and we had no data and I'm not in the day-to-day, what are we going to talk about? Like, you know, I'm just going to go off what information you're bringing to the meeting. I'm not going off what the company's actually doing, you know?
Yeah.
So it helps remove you from the day-to-day, but still be in the know of what's going on and keep a pulse on the business.
Mm-hmm. I find that in our business too, is like meeting with clients. We talk about money, right?
Yeah.
It's all about your personal financial situation. And if we have an annual strategy session or semi-annual strategy session, quarterly for a business owner, whatever it is, and we come in and I start asking questions about numbers and things that have been going on, and they're like, "Oh, well, I need to go look that up."
Yeah.
I'm like, you realize we're talking about money today, right?
Absolutely.
Like, you didn't have things
already
set up.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things for us, like working direct to consumer in a lot of ways is, and I'm assuming it's the same for you guys with your moving clients, right? Is, you know, we're now changing our processes to be very proactive up front. Is you got a meeting booked in 3 weeks? Great. Here's all the information we have on file for you. You need to get back to us updates at least 3 business days ahead of time. Because if something changes, we got to know about it. We need to be prepared to talk about it. You know, what are your priorities? What are your agenda items? All that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, we end up sitting there talking about your nephew's last Little League game for an hour.
Not productive at all.
$350 an hour for me, that's really not helpful.
No,
you know,
not at all.
Or for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And you don't want to have meetings just to have meetings. Is my motto. Like, you know, I think the less meetings you have means a healthier business you have, right? Mm-hmm. Like, you want your meetings to be effective, and you don't want to be having, you don't want to say, oh, we're having this meeting for an hour just because it needs to be an hour. Like, it doesn't need to be an hour. Like, talk about what we need to talk about and move on our way, whatever the time may be. Maybe it's 20 minutes. Maybe it's 2 hours. Who knows?
Right. You ever heard of the Parkinson's law?
No.
So Parkinson's law is this concept that you take up as much space as you give yourself.
Yeah.
So if I give myself 3 months to do a paper in school, I'm probably going to do it the night before.
100%.
Right? It's that same concept. It's the same thing with meetings is if I give myself an hour, I'm probably going to take an hour and 15 minutes.
Yeah.
You know, so try to shorten it as much as possible so you can just get the necessary things done.
Absolutely.
And that's it. Yeah. I love that. So let's kind of talk about just closing out here, kind of landing the plane for today. Is a question that came to me this morning was a lot of people probably see you around. They see your social media. They see the trucks everywhere. Like one of the exciting things for me is I've been driving in Mississippi and I saw a truck.
Yeah.
And I was like, holy crap, it's Chris,
Yeah.
right? It's company, you know? And it's an exciting thing for me to get to see like a local company that has a transcendent brand is what I would say, like truly transcendent. Like you guys stand out wherever you go. There's culture, there's values, there's mission behind it, all those kind of things. I feel like everybody who knows of you or knows you like sees that, but there's probably a lot more people don't know. So I'm just curious, and this question came to me this morning is, what's something about you that people don't know that you would want people to know? And I know I'm putting you on the spot with that, but
I guess, something that people don't know that I would want them to know. I'm a very introverted person naturally. Like I got always have a ton of anxiety, but like I just know that up front, and I'm always willing to overstep that and be uncomfortable in situations where I need to be an extrovert and have great conversation and build relationships and stuff like that. But like talking like to people that I'm not really familiar with is super, super difficult for me. And a lot of times, I question, I go through a lot of, mental challenges like, do I deserve to be where I'm at or whatever the case may be? But, it's all part of the process and just being able to maintain that level of comfortability. And I think that's what's allowed me to grow into where I'm at today, I guess.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, like the imposter syndrome kind of thing.
Yeah.
Dude, I feel that.
Ton of imposter syndrome.
Oh my gosh.
But then to be quite frank too, is like, it'll flip and like, I'll think like, like I'll have a big ego and I really need to like check myself. It's like, you're a small fry, like calm down. And like, this is not what you're here for. Like you're here to like, be an inspiration and provide a good life for your family. And that's it. Like, so it does bounce back and forth. And like, it just takes a lot of self-awareness and being sure that you keep yourself in check either way.
I found that like when I talk with clients or other business owners, the ones that have that mindset where it's this constant battle of like arrogance and humility.
Yeah.
Not arrogance in the sake of like being a complete jerk to other people, but just like feeling good about yourself, but then also like, but am I actually that good? Like for me, why are people trusting me with their money? I'm trustworthy. Like, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But it's like a lot of people put a lot of faith and hope and trust in what we do. Same for you.
Yeah.
Moving your personal goods, moving your entire life from one place to another place, storing it for a period of time. Like that's a big deal, right? And there is that kind of back and forth humility, arrogance kind of thing. But those that battle that constantly, I feel like they're the ones that are most successful.
Yeah.
Because there's always this feeling of, okay, we hit a mountaintop. Now there's this other mountaintop way over there. But the reality is I've got to go down the ridgeline into the valley to go back up to that next mountaintop. And I feel like because I got here, I can do that. But if I'm always just chasing like, the next thing, like I'm always just feeling like, I'll just jump over.
Yeah.
I'll jump over the gorge instead of going around. Like that's never going to help you win.
Exactly.
And ultimately you probably shouldn't win if you're always feeling that way.
Yeah.
So tell us just, kind of closing out here, 2 things I want to know from you. One thing is, as people are thinking about like their next move, they're thinking about, obviously the housing market is starting to tick up again. This is springtime. Summer's going to be here before we know it. What are the things people need to be thinking about as they're looking at hiring a preferred provider, the best company in the upstate to help them move their life safely and securely to the next place?
Absolutely. The first thing you need to be thinking of is getting the habit of calling a rabbit.
There you go.
And then second is you just need to make sure that it's super important. No, there's a lot of great moving companies in the area. It's just making sure that your mover is licensed and insured, making sure that they are showing up with the proper equipment. If you get a mover that's not licensed or insured and, maybe they're $30, $40 cheaper an hour, okay, well, what happens if somebody gets injured on your property, or what happens if your items get damaged? Do you think that those people that are making low margin are going to be able to sustain to make it whole on a mistake that they made on your move, Whereas the true value in a moving company comes into, are they training their employees correctly? Are they licensed? Are they insured? Are they showing up in branded vehicles? All that stuff truly matters. And if you're looking to see if your mover is licensed and insured, you can just go to fmcsa.gov and go to the household good. I forgot what it is, but you can just go to fmcsa.gov and it'll lead you to where you need to go to make sure that your mover has the authority to move you. But yeah, and just making sure that it's a company that meshes for you, and also thinking about, especially if you're going over state lines, there's a lot of different scenarios. Sometimes using a moving company to move to California is not the best move, right? Like maybe it is a pod, and you just hire movers to pack your pod and then unpack it on California side, or maybe it's you rent a U-Haul and do it yourself. But if you find the right company, they're going to work with you and they're going to understand your budget and your needs and your expectations, and they're going to walk you through that process to make sure that you get exactly what you're looking for, no matter the amount of money they're going to make off of it, right? Like, we're not a company out here just trying to do your move to California just because we want that, $30,000, $40,000. We want to do what's right for you and what's in the best interest for you, because we're looking for a long-term relationship. We're looking for somebody, when you have a friend or family that's looking at a movie, like, oh, Swamp Rabbit did right by me. Like, they could have upsold me on doing the whole move, but instead they said, this is the best method. Get a pod, pack it, and then get movers on the other side to unpack it. Like, that's what we're looking for. I tell my team all the time, we don't take we take short-term sacrifices for long-term gains, which means, we'll get kicked in the teeth a couple of times, knowing that on the other side of getting kicked in the teeth, there's something special, right? Like, we're building that relationship. We're showing them that we have integrity, that, our reputation does mean something to us.
To me, that's just abundance mindset.
Yeah.
Right. It's like the world is bigger and more abundant, and the rivers, it's flowing, right? Like, I don't have to worry about one little stream over here. Like, the whole river's going.
Yeah.
It's going to keep flowing. Like, we don't have to worry about that kind of
Exactly.
stuff. I love that. So tell us just one final thing, and then we'll find out how people can find you.
Yeah.
Because that's important, right? Obviously, call the rabbit.
Yeah.
Right. Get in the habit. Call the rabbit.
Yeah.
If I butcher that, let me know.
No.
But when you're thinking about where you guys are going, we talked a little bit about, your vision 10 years down the road, get to a certain point, be able to sell, reinvest, those kind of things. I've never had a conversation with an entrepreneur that has a vision like that doesn't have a bigger purpose behind it.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, what is the bigger purpose for you in terms of impact and influence with that vision?
I think the biggest purpose for me is I just want to be able to give back. I think, starting Swamp Rabbit Moving was a special journey for me because it allowed me to have the capabilities to give back in monetary ways, but also in, just serving myself. And my big goal is to just continually give back to the community, and that is kind of my way for making up for being a crazy kid, I guess.
Okay.
It's like it's almost selfish because like that's what makes me feel better about like now I'm a productive member of society, right? But also I want to be an inspiration to people. Like, hey, you can really come from not much, and you can truly, evolve into the American dream per se. Like it's possible, and it's still possible. Like people talk about the economy all the time. Well, the economy is. I don't really think about the economy at all, right? Like I think about stuff I can control. If I can't control the economy, like personally, why think about it? What I can control is my actions that are leading me to what I'm doing to build this company, right? Like I'm showing up, I'm finding new marketing avenues, I'm hiring new team members, empowering them to do what that's stuff I can control. So let's not think about the uncontrollable. Let's think about what we control. So I'd say my biggest one would be inspiration and then ability to give back.
Thanks for sharing that, man.
Yeah.
I love that because it's so much bigger than you.
Yeah.
Right. So much bigger than your past. It's all about like, what is the future? What's the impact you can have down the road?
Absolutely.
So tell us, for everybody here, how can people find you guys?
Yeah.
What is your process to get a quote? Figure out what they need to do, and then we'll wrap it up.
Yeah. So you can either give us a call, 864-643-2213, or you can visit our website, swamprabbitmovement.com, and fill out a quote form online, and my team will reach out to you immediately. If you're looking to follow us, we do a lot of funny reels and just a lot of cool content on social media. So if you want to follow us on Instagram or Facebook, it's just at Swamp Rabbit Moving, and you can find us.
Perfect.
Yep.
Awesome, man. Well, I appreciate you being here.
Yeah,
This has
thank
been
you,
super
Patrick.
Fantastic. I appreciate you being able to jump in on a short notice as well. That really means a lot. But yeah, just to kind of close out, everybody, if you have not checked out Chris's Instagram, go check it out. Follow them. Check out the funny reels. Share them. Also, the algorithm is the algorithm. You got to work it. You got to make it work for you. Also, if you haven't listened to our prior episodes in the past few months about homeownership and buying and insurance and mortgages and all that kind of stuff, go check them out. And please, dear Lord, leave us a freaking review.
Yes.
We're trying to get some actual, understanding of, is this good? Is it not good? Let us know what your thoughts are. Shoot us an email. Give us a comment. Let us know what you want to hear, and we'll go from there. Awesome. Thanks for your time, guys.
Thank you, man.
Appreciate it.
Discussions in this show are for entertainment and educational purposes only and should not be construed as specific recommendations or investment advice. Always consult with your investment professional before making important investment decisions. Securities offered through registered representatives of Cambridge Investment Research, Inc., a broker-dealer and member of FINRA and SIPC. Advisory services through Cambridge Investment Research Advisors, Inc., a registered investment advisor. Cambridge and neither SmartPro Financial nor Bridgeway Wealth are affiliated.